And we're back, with some oxygen not included. And we're continuing on with the plan of flooding the map, which might take a minute. But before I think the first thing we should probably do today is hook up all the additional water supplies we've got lying around the place. Just start dumping them into our geothermal plant and, start getting it filtered into our water tank. However, there is one thing we're going to need to take care of first. That is, we're going to be starting walling in these areas, and that means we're going to have to make sure they're either accessible and waterproof. Well, a bit of both. So I'm thinking we're going to do a little bit of testing before we go any further. Since we're going to be relying on transport tubes, that means we need to figure out how we're going to, waterproof them. You see, you can put a transport tube through walls, but unfortunately the water will just push right through as well. So what you need to do is use these transit tube crossings. However, they're made of plastic and they're not indestructible. So what we're going to do here is just put more and more water pressure on them and figure out at what point they break, and then figure out a way to not make them break when they get submerged too deep. So what we have here is 5 tiles of water pressure, 10, 15, 20, all the way up. And what happens here is these have all been placed in with debug mode, so it's 1,000 kilos of water per tile. But what you'll notice when I unpause it here is that the water starts to compress down. As in, this water at the top here, which used to be 1,000 kilos, is now going down, down, and down. Reason being is the water at the bottom is going up in pressure. And what that results in is that all of these here will start to experience more pressure than they should, or more pressure from the water above. Actually, let me get rid of these real quick. And once it hits a certain level, it will start to cause this to crack and or break. Now, the question is, how much water pressure can they take? And then once we figure that out, we can start adding additions to see if we can't stop it from causing too much damage. Oh, also, even if we do this from the bottom, as in, just say we had tiles like this, and we had this on the bottom of our base, water pressure can still push up and force its way through the bottom. So we need to figure out a way to do on the bottom as well, and that should be a gas pressure thing. Wow, that's actually taking a fair bit of pressure down there. I mean, the pressure's still going up, but let's fast forward a bit and see what happens. Well, there goes the pressure damage. Turns out we just have to get up to about 140 kilos of pressure. Alright, so at least we know from natural pressure we need to get to about this high. I was about to start extending this on to increase the pressure because I thought it was taking too long. Kind of curious if this one's going to go as well. You know what, we'll let it bleed on a little bit longer. And that's 2. Okay, that's enough of that. What we'll do now is we're going to start testing some of the mitigation measures we can take. So what we're going to do here is basically put a liquid on top of them. You see, it's the pressure of the liquid on top of it that's causing the problem, but if we place another blob of liquid between it, let's just give it some visco gel. We'll just paint in some visco gel right there. And that visco gel immediately floats up because it's heavier than water. Okay, so that's not going to work. Instead, we went with supercoolant. I was just thinking this way, if it gets too hot or too cold, it should be fine. So it can't freeze and cause us any issues. And you know what? Let's just speed things along a bit. Give me a sample. Make that 1,000 kilos. And yeah, why not? We'll crank up the pressure quite a bit. Now, what that should mean is, with the supercoolant, since the supercoolant is the only thing touching the transit tube, no damage should happen. So this thing should be perfectly safe. Right, now, oh, and another thing for doing these. If we want to stop temperature from getting through, we don't really have a lot of options here. You see, what I originally tried to do with these things, and I'm pretty sure everyone went the same route, if you want to pass these through a wall, you can do that, but then temperature is going to leak through. So then you think, oh, what if I do this? And then I link them together with transport tube in the middle. And I put a transport tube in there, and then, they can continue on. Problem is, you can't get through that. Duplicants can't pass through that from one side to the other. Actually, let's spawn it in and demonstrate. This here is Ren. Poor Ren is going to be advised to move over there, which he can't do. Reason being is those tubes are too close together. If you want to use these, what you have to do is make sure that they're 2 tiles apart. So what we do is we move that guy over one. Actually, one second. Move that over 1 tile, and then we have to have a 2 tile gap between it. Now, at this point, we can move him over here. And poof. So, we need 2 tile gaps between everything, which means we need some way of also insulating those. For our next little test is going to be transit tubes crossing that are going to be downwards facing. As in, they're coming at the bottom of the base and we want to put in a tube into the bottom of some sort of airtight container that's going to be surrounded by water, while these ones would be more for airtight containers where the tube is coming in from the top. Now what we've done here is we've just put in, gas. So there's 1 kilo of gas right here, and then there's 2,000 kilos of water pressure in each one of those tiles. So that stuff should try and smash through that, but since it can't transfer pressure through the gas, this is effectively immortal. What we probably would have would be something more along the lines of this, would be airflow tiles to make sure, or we'd either triple layer the tiles, or we would use airflow tiles. Actually, those things are not even snapping under that pressure at all. How much pressure does it take to break 2 layers of tiles these days? It used to be it didn't take that much pressure at all, but I think they've definitely upped it. Let's put 5,000 kilos of water in each tile, and then see what happens. Let's give it a minute. Wait, never mind. Pressure damage has already started over here. Well, that's a problem. Yeah, that immediately caused problems. Not only did that immediately cause problems, I've also got problems over here. This little air pocket gap is causing issues with the surrounding tiles. So I think we're going to have to use liquid here instead of an air gap. I think that might be the only way. So what we'll do instead is put in a blob of visco gel. Nope, still doesn't stop the pressure damage. Huh. Interesting. Why is that giving pressure damage? What if we deconstruct that and reconstruct it? Oh, that's not great. Okay, so we can at least prevent pressure damage with the airflow tiles. Also, 3 tiles thick will also stop all pressure damage. We can demonstrate that rather easily. 5,000 kilos of water pressure inside a box containing those 2 tiles. Alright, so we're going to have to construct them that way, and that should make sure we're fine. That will be awkward, though. What we'll have to do is somehow get the blob of liquid in there. And how do we make the blob stay? So the plan would be get a 10 kilo blob of visco gel, pump it into that section, deconstruct that. That leaves us with a... Damn it. Pump the 10 kilo blob in there, sever the pipe section behind it, deconstruct that liquid pipe, and that will leave us with a 10 kilo blob right there. And then once the water gets up to here, what we'll have to do is get a duplicate to come around and manually deconstruct this. And if we deconstruct that, it will leave a blob of visco gel behind, which will then protect the area. Done! So that means from the bottom we can protect ourselves, and from the top. From the sides might be a little bit more difficult. In fact, from the sides could get really complicated depending on water pressure and how it goes. Well, this is a couple of liquid locks I was just testing. This one here is petroleum. It's just a normal standard liquid lock. Water tries to get in and it can't force its way by. I just chucked in a lot of water in there. There's, as you can see, there's like 14 tons of water from the corner here. But pressure-wise, it only gets up to about 3,000 kilos. It kind of oscillates, or sorry, 1,300 kilos, and it oscillates back and forth a bit. And it does not seem to be able to force any of this out. I also put a visco gel lock there and a visco gel lock there and did a reverse liquid lock. That seems to work just fine too. Alright, so we just have to double layer the liquid locks to make sure that doesn't happen. That just leaves one last thing we have to contend with, and that is power. You see there's these heavy watt joint plates, and heavy watt joint plates also don't work too well. Gold is their most common material, so we're going to see what happens when we, well, basically dump a bunch more water on top of that. Pretty sure, from if memory serves, that, yeah, that will break that too. And we need to come up with a way to insulate the areas. We're going to be insulating steam areas, so normally what I do is something along the lines of this, where we have 2 blocks like that, then we seal them in. That creates literally a vacuum gap, so that power can't, or temperature can't transfer between those 2 tiles. Doesn't matter if the power wires are touching. How are you looking? Nope, still not breaking it. We'll give it another minute. And then we have to figure out some way of stopping these from taking pressure damage, which means we might have to make sure that they only go on the ups or downs, because I can't think of a way to do this sideways that wouldn't result in a bunch of problems. I suppose another option would be that, and put visco gel in there. That could work also. Actually, that? No. We've no way of getting the power out then. It's just what I worry about is once we get these up to where they're supposed to be and we start flooding them up, once the map unfloods, or if we drain too much water out of it, that the visco gel would fall down. Like, see this here? If the water drops below a certain level, that visco gel is going to fall out of the pocket. That would be annoying. You know what? I'll worry about it later. And how have you not started to break yet? Weirdness. This guy's not breaking yet, despite having 1,400 kilos of pressure. This guy took 1,600 kilos of pressure. What happens if we break that up the other side? Kilo of water goes through every time, eh? Hmm. Let me do some other testing here. There might be a way to maybe... What if we put some liquids in here? You know, they're still going to transfer temperature. But actually, only down the bottom then? Ooh. Give me 1 second. Nope. Didn't work. I was hoping that if we put a liquid on the opposite side, it would stop the water breaking through the heavy watt joint plate. That limits our options. Instead, what we've done is we've put in a glass tile. The way I figure it is, that's a solid tile, that's a solid tile, that's a solid tile. So if you have 3 solid tiles in a row, it shouldn't cause any breakage. So all we'd have to do is make a glass tile on the spot. Might not be perfectly possible, but we'll figure something out on that front, if it works. If it doesn't work, we'll worry about it later. Okay, I've been doing a bunch more testing, and these things are not breaking. I don't remember this being the case. They can break if you apply enormous amounts of pressure, but I've applied a lot of pressure here. Like, that's an entire map's worth of water bearing down on top of them, and they're like, yeah, and? Like, that's steel, that's gold, that's copper, that's lead, that's iron, and all of them have no problems with this. They're like, yep, don't care. Not even a little bit. I might switch to iron, though, just in case. I've been using gold for these, but maybe iron, just because iron tends to be stronger than gold in most scenarios. So I don't think we need to put any caps on those. Just so long as we have the basic not heat transfer, we can connect them up to steam rooms and then flood the whole area, and that will hold out. Oh, and one other thing you can use, it was bound to always come up. We'll just pause this for a second. Doors. Yep, they're basically immune to pressure damage as well. So manual airlocks and mechanized airlocks cannot take pressure damage. So it doesn't matter, you can use those as walls as well. Though I kind of prefer to use airflow tiles, namely because it just doesn't look so jank. It does give you that weird thing where it looks like the water's floating on top, but I can live with that. So, oh, yeah, there was some problems over here when I was messing around. Anyway, we know how to do airlocks now, or liquid locks, I should say. We know how to do these things, and we know how to do power joints. I think that's all we need to have tested anyway. So let's pop back to our main save. We are now armed with the knowledge we'll need to insulate our map from the rising water, but that water's still a little bit low. I mean, don't get me wrong. We're adding water constantly, and it's going to keep going up. There's no going back at this point. Considering our water consumption is minuscule compared to our production. However, you cool slush geyser, we're going to add you into the mix as well. We're just waiting on analysis to finish and we'll seal this up. But all of that water is now going to get pumped over here, down, and into the third entryway on this geothermal heat pump. And we're not even going to try and load balance this. We're basically dumping in as much water as we can. And I think we will have to hook up this third geovent just so that we can process 30 kilos of water per second. I don't think we'll need it immediately. Oh, actually, thinking about it, I'll add up how much each of the vents produces in water, and then we'll see. Actually, no, we'll probably get by with 2, now that I think about it. Unless these things have massively high amounts of water coming out, which is possible. Unless they do, we should be fairly safe. Now, once that's finished analyzing, we're going to head over here and we're going to rejig this one. We don't need this much polluted water storage anymore. Also, it's riddled with a lot of germs. Yeah, I think a little bit of well, the dupes had an accident, and then we scooped up the water and it ended up in here, because this is where the polluted water goes. But we're not going to have any polluted water emptying in the future, or we'll have to make sure we can get back in here to dump polluted water into the system. So I'm thinking same as below, except just maybe a little bit bigger and with a transport tube access. Done! Very simple. We're just going to have it so that... Actually, we'll seal it up there. Duplicates can get in via this, and then they'll be able to run around inside. We're going to have to put airflow tiles around it to prevent pressure damage, but we should be able to keep the transit cube crossing there. Duplicates can get in and out via that, and through that ladder system up and down as necessary. I think they can get down there and hop across. They should be. You know what? We'll seal it up and we'll see. In fact, if we just check, see navigation. No, there is no connection between them. Damn it. I thought we had that right, and it was nice and neat. Oh well, looks like they won't be getting in there. Actually, they probably won't need to service it. All they need to be able to do is go in here anyway to drop off bottles to empty. So I don't think it really matters too much. Seal that up on the top, and we're finished. Alright, down here, this one is actually much simpler. The reason being is we don't need to get in here anymore. So, we're just gonna wall her in. We'll give her Well, we could go with mass airflow tiles or we could triple layer it. I think I'll go with airflow tiles just for consistency's sake because that's what we're going to be using, well, everywhere. Also, we didn't need to airflow tiles the neutronium, but hey, consistency is king. So that should make sure that has no worries about pressure. We will have to do something about power though. Those transformers will get flooded, so we'll need to make a power brick or like sort of a plug socket that's self-cooling, and we'll be able to like go out and power all of these things on the edges. Yeah, that main power spine thing's going to be a problem. I mean, we could use the power spine, try running the power spine through those things because they seem to be very pressure resistant, but I think we'll hold it for maybe 1 or 2 places just in case anything does go wrong. Alright, you should be fine for now. That means there's 2 other water sources left on the map. Actually, wait, nope. I want to do a quick add up of all of these different vents. Between all the saltwater vents, polluted water vents, and cool slush geysers, it is 14605, or 14.6 kilos of water per second, which is great because these things can handle 20. Between there's 5 steam turbines there and 5 steam turbines there, so they can process about 20 kilos per second. Some of it is going to get recycled for now, but if we need to, we can turn that off and just, okay, we'll take some heat loss for the power, but we don't really mind so much. But there's still a few water sources we have to deal with. Namely, there is a cool steam vent over here, or a regular steam vent. Oh my god, this is like the hot steam vents. 2 kilos of hot steam. I've never had to deal with those. You know what? Let's find the cool steam one vent first. That one should be an awful lot easier. How are you? Regular steam vent? Oh, this is also a hot steam vent at 500C. Oh, right. Well, you know, it's an extra 5 kilos of water per second. That will be necessary for what we're planning. So, yeah, let's, actually, it's 4.5. We got to figure out a way of processing 500-degree steam and turning it into useful. I have what I think is an idea. You see, the steam comes out of this at 500 degrees, which is a problem. So what we want to do is either cool down the steam to something that can be processed by the steam turbines without overheating them too much, or we want to, well, eat the heat from the steam by bleeding it off. So I figure we take these 2 steam turbines over here and we bleed the heat out of this section. Once the heat is reduced to about 200 degrees or less, these steam turbines will activate and remove the steam from this room, assuming there's enough pressure. These things, I believe, will keep emitting until the pressure in the room is, oh, it's only 7.5 kilos. 151 there, 151 there. Oh yeah, so 150 kilos is the maximum pressure these things can handle. We'll have to filter it out and make sure there's only steam in there. Are you dormant or are you active? Please don't be active. Overpressure, idling. Next dormancy is 3.5 cycles. Okay, we could leave you for 3.5 cycles and come back. What about the one down lower? You know what? We should probably dig that one out and find out. Maybe seal it in first, just for safety reasons. Well, this is very rough and ready. All that'll happen here is that, well, in theory, I haven't actually tested any of this, but it seems like it should work. This will emit steam. The steam can't go above 5 kilos of pressure, we'd have problems, but hopefully it won't. Then what'll happen is, when it emits here, it'll be 500 degrees. Then there's this layer of supercoolant behind it. This stuff will suck the heat out of it rather quickly. It's 10 kilos per blob. That can hold just twice as much heat as the water is going to be spitting out. That's going to get shunted over here, and the heat's going to get destroyed on this section. We'll just keep recycling the steam pressure in here, and there's also an aqua tuner to keep the steam turbines cool. Once this is down to 200 degrees, which should be very rapid, that will trigger this to go, hey, take the water out of here. Actually, make that, say, 200C. And if the temperature is below 200C, those steam turbines above it will activate, and that will shunt the water out of this section, hopefully keeping it below 5 kilos. Will it work or not? Well, we'll find out in 37 cycles. While this was going on, I did some other work in the background, namely up here, where we made a replica of the one down below. I really hope this design works, otherwise it's going to be awkward. I'm also concerned it might actually cause the steam to solidify before it gets a chance to go through the steam turbines. You know what? We have time to worry about that later. For now, what we need to do is start, well, bricking in the stuff down here to make sure that it's not going to have problems when the water gets to it. I think this one here should be fairly easy. Famous last words, of course. I think we'll put in a drop-off right about here and just seal in the rest of the area, triple layer it, maybe put in some airflow tiles. Really quick. Actually, minor complication, we also have to get power out of here as well. This is a power provider, so yeah, I think we're going to have some sort of double exit with airflow tiles and maybe some liquids to keep everything going. Yeah, this is going to be tricksy, isn't it? Okay, I think we got this, Dan. All we did is we chucked the power out here. We'll put a blob of supercoolant there. We'll put a blob of supercoolant there. That will be replaced with the airflow tile. That with a solid tile. We'll actually make it airflow tiles out to there, airflow tiles out to there, and then it's completely sealed in. I still haven't done it in the top though, but that will be a completely sealed box, and the only way in and out will be through this transit tube, and the pressure won't be able to destroy it because of the blobs of liquid we place on top of those two. Now, I don't want to do that just yet because there is one other thing I want to take care of so we don't have to come back here. One is extracting all of these resources. These have some use, so we might as well get rid of them. I was thinking auto sweeper, auto loader, and then we're going to have to run a big long bunch of conveyor rails. This should go back to our centralized storage. And this should be... Don't kind of want to send it out over the transit tube, though we may have to. It's just if we send it out over the transit tube, it might melt it. The properties of that stuff, it goes up to 159. That's probably going to be okay. Very simple plan. Autoloader, shipping rails. We'll put a tiny little bit of automation here to slow it down, and then it's going to pass through the crude oil, which is getting cooled down by the aqua tuner, which is running on supercoolant. That means that when it comes out the other side, it should be well below 100 degrees, preferably around 40 or 50. And we're even going to slow it down a bit so it only comes out in, you know, say 20 kilos every 3 ticks as opposed to 20 kilos a tick. That way, by the time it gets out of here, it should be cold enough to go to our central storage. It's going to go up and out and over and across and up here and all the way over there and all the way up here and finally get up to drop-offs. Yeah, this is going to take a while to build. Like, just a couple of minutes. Now for the moment of truth. All we're going to do is just set this to... I suppose it's probably the simplest thing. I'll grab everything that's in here. Dirt and all, and dump it into conveyor loader. Right. 200 kg chunks. They're going to head up to this little thing. This thing's just set to come on for 1 second out of every 4. Sure. Yeah, so that's 1 through, 2 through, 2, 3. Okay. I just don't want to put too much pressure on the thermal aqua tuner down here. It's already working reasonably hard. We don't want to stress it. What's it actually at? Yeah, it's about 50% uptime. By the time this stuff gets out the other side, it's 40 degrees. Not great, not terrible. Okay, 45, 46, 48. We can't be having that. Yeah, you know what? Give me minus 10. Sorry, buddy. You're going to be working a little bit harder for a while. How are you looking? 49, 32, 26. All right, we'll see what happens here. I presume that dirt is the first thing out, and I'd filled it entirely with... No, we got dirt, igneous rock, granite, rust. Depending on which item goes down the line, it will determine how much chilling it gets. I presume dirt's just not very conductive. Rust is coming out... Actually... Okay, igneous rock comes out at 33. Granite comes out at 24. Dirt is coming out at 50. Okay, so dirt's the outlier. Everything else should be grand. And since it's not constantly going, it's going to take a while for this to drain, but it should be fast enough that we don't have to worry about it. And soon enough, once that water gets high, we'll wall this entire place in. I think, actually, we can do that now. No. I don't want to have any gases leak in here just yet. The problem is, if we hook up with these airflow tiles here, these are currently in a vacuum, but if we hook up to those, we're then getting carbon dioxide down here, and I'd prefer to keep the oil biome slightly separated, at least for now. On the other side over here, I made some changes in the background to this. This was very inefficient and wasn't getting out enough, it wasn't chilling it down enough when it came out. Also, it was very slow. We didn't get continuous throughput. It used to turn on an awful lot. What we did was we put in metal tiles. Gold metal tiles all the way along the bottom. That wasn't quite enough. So then we put in some extra tiles on top. Then we stuck in an extra aqua tuner and moved all the aqua tuners to the right. I used to have one aqua tuner over here and one aqua tuner here. And what I realized was this was putting a bunch of heat at the end and dumping it into the stuff we were trying to cool down, which was bad. So all of the heat is on this half, which means on the far end over here it actually gets a bit cooler. It's down to 168, 169. Whereas over this end it's 270-ish. So there's like a bit of a heat gradient and it gets cooler as we go along. And that means there's this separate cooling loop over here and this one over here. This one's never going to hit temp. This one kind of gets it pretty low, and this one almost. But it's balanced. That's the thing. It's staying pretty consistent. It's all flowing along, and we're getting it out of the other end below 50 degrees. Not perfect. Could be better. But it is working. And it's sustainable, and the throughput is great. Comes out at 20 kilos per second, so this will be finished at some point. As opposed to when I was looking at originally going, this will take an eternity and a half. Alright, next up we need to get rid of this entire oil biome. We need to either box it up or use it in some way or dump it. Once that's out of the way with, we're then going to have to... I think we'll probably keep this place alive. I figure the water's going to get above this before it's finished dealing with all of this mass. There's just... we can't see it because there's too many tiles. I'd have to install a mod to make sure they're all visible, but there's just too many tons. This is going to take forever to process. So I figured this is going to have to be boxed up, airflow tiled, make sure the power can get it, and also make sure we can get back in because we're going to want to demolish it once it's finished. This one here is going to have to take the same treatment as this one, though we might do it slightly differently. It's just we've got this saltwater geyser on the side, which also has to be boxed off. Pretty much similar to this one. The oil biome, these things here, the oil reservoirs, we're going to have to box those off as well. The oil reservoirs need to be boxed in. Like, it's just all these little things need to be sealed off and prepared for flooding. And the oil biome needs to, well, go. And that's just the oil biome. The oil biome's kind of, it's a little bit hard to distinguish now, but where is it? This here is all the oil biome. So we're probably going to seal that all in. And what's that? Carbon dioxide vent? Yeah, we don't care about you. Hot carbon dioxide, still don't care about you. We've also got a volcano, but we don't need it there. Actually, kind of would like to get in some geothermal power while we're here. Are you a minor or a major volcano? You're a major volcano. Maybe a little bit of geothermal power wouldn't hurt. Actually, I've kind of run out of time, so instead I'm going to do a quick project on this side, and that is basically replace all of this. We want to make sure that this is going to be walled in and safe for when the water level rises above it. We haven't actually opened up the bottom of the water tank yet, but once we open up the bottom of the water tank, that's going to start sliding across. We might have to do a rocket chimney now, think about it. To get enough water to do this really, really fast, we might have to do just a small rocket chimney and maybe stick 5 or 6 steam rockets in it. Though if we do that, we'll have to drill a hole through everything. I mean, this might be the best location? Right through here. I think there's no vents or geysers all the way up. Oh, except for the heat removal. Oh man, no matter what we do, if we try and build a rocket chimney, it's going to eat into something. We could build one right here, maybe, but that goes straight to the leaky oil fissure. I mean, maybe. Let's see, what is it? 7 tiles wide we need it, at least? I mean, that could sort of work. Oh. No, I am not rebuilding that entire plastic sour gas boiler. The sour tart is like, just no. No. We'd have to go through the core base there, so that leaves this side, anti-entropy nullifier. And then we got this entire forest over here. We can't... I'm not letting that happen to the forest. And, oh my god, that snow over there got in again. I gotta remember to break in here every so often and dig this out, because it keeps clogging up and clogging that entire side of the line. It's not really that big a deal. We still have loads of fluid coming in, and it's running all of the plastic presses, and we have loads of plastic. It's just the principle of the thing, you know? Now, you, down here, we need to finish you off real quick. Done. We'll have airflow tiles all the way around the outside, neutronium on the edge, and we'll put a blob of supercoolant there and there. We could also use oil or crude oil, but I'm probably going to use supercoolant just because, well, consistency, like I said. And we've got a transit tube access that everyone can get in and out of, so that should be perfectly safe. And that's another thing waterproofed. A rising tide may raise all boats, but it will cause water pressure damage to everything that is not sealed in. So that's everything on the bottom levels. Oh, this guy's a complete mess, actually. The thing is, we put in these at the start because we didn't know how many of these we were going to need. In fact, this whole section here can go. You can just be gone. We're gonna do a quick coolant change here. This stuff is running on water right now. Water's not great. I mean, it was when we built this thing a bajillion years ago, but I kind of forget. And let's see. No, that goes there, that goes there. Excellent. And we can make it shorter because we've chopped off 2 of the steam turbines. Excellent. Then, once that last blob of liquid goes by, we can start pouring on the supercoolant we've got ready to plug in over here. And that should leave us with a supercooled system, and we can tweak the temperature system a bit better. We're going to want to do the same thing over here that we did over here. Though that might be a little bit longer. We've still got to seal off the entire oil biome. We need to transplant these slicksters to somewhere where they can survive. So we might need to artificially heat a place up. Or if we tap into an oil reservoir or three and they can live in the oil reservoir area. Actually, might be an idea to start using the three oil reservoirs, and then that will give us a bunch of polluted water that we can then put back into the oil reservoirs and give us excess water that we can dump into, the water tank. I can actually tell that that's gone up a bit since we started this. Next time, what I got to do at the start of the episode is put down a block somewhere, like a little mesh block, something like this, to indicate where we are at the start of the episode, and then remove it at the end and then put in the next one, just to see how high up the tank is getting. Though I suppose once we chop out the bottom here, it's definitely going to drop a lot more. Now, where were we? No. We got to finish this off really quickly. And I think we are golden. Right. In fact, we might want to chop that off a little bit. I don't want that super coolant going all the way to the end and losing itself. Better. Little bit of a gap. I just realized something. I have to remove that, don't I? I have to get rid of that liquid bridge. Otherwise, it's going to take at least one blob. Even if we slice it there, it'll still put one blob out, and I'd prefer not to. It'll be fine. The steam turbines probably won't overheat in the time we've got allotted. And that should be the last one for you. And that should be it. Perfect. We might have to take out one blob just to, in case it jams up. But I think we are good. Alright, one last change here. That's about half done. We've got this half sealed off, but I'm just... I think we need to start letting gases back into the oil biome. Well, not the oil biome, the magma biome. We've cleaned out most of the hot rocks. The only thing left to do would be scrape out the abyssalite. Problem is that abyssalite will probably exchange temperature with gases that touch it, which will superheat a few pieces. But if we core out the red hot bits, we should be fine. It's just, I don't know if I know it definitely, if you have something like a petroleum and it touches that 821 degree piece of abyssalite, it will flash immediately to sour gas. That would be bad. But gases, I think there's something similar happens. It's called flaking or something along those lines. So we might have to core out those pieces. But first, I think I'd like to get rid of the oil. Once we get the oil either stocked up or put away, I might just put that into liquid tanks for now. Store up a whole bunch of it. And we're going to need to find a nice warm spot for those slicksters. And I'm thinking, I think we're going to make a quick petroleum boiler just so that we can recycle the oil we've got going on and generate ourselves a bit more power. Just this makes me nervous. We have 30 dupes roughly, and our power requirements are pretty substantial. And this is good. This generates a lot of power. Actually, I think I have that currently on flat out. And if it is, you'll see, yep, it's at 20 kilos of pressure over here. We'll turn this off for a bit and let it do its thing. I sometimes just turn it on, just flat out, just to see. Just leave it running for ages. But at the moment, we've got loads of power coming in from this, but that will go offline. These two will also eventually max out. You've got to remember, we're only going to have 14 kilos of water on average going through. So between uptime and downtime of the vents, we'll have parts where they won't be in use, which could be not great. So I would like to have a petroleum boiler just in case. But anyway, that will be for the next episode. For now, we've managed to waterproof most of the downstairs. And once we've waterproofed a lot, what we can do is we can just let this run overnight for like, whatever, 50, 60 hours or something like that. Let it run over a whole weekend and fill up most of the map. That will be an interesting time lapse. Anyway, I'm going to cut this out here. I hope you enjoyed it. Good luck.